listeners. I'm your host Jayasree, and you're listening to TALRadio, powered by Touch a Life Foundation. Welcome to Leadership for Life with Kyra Cavanaugh, President of 15B Wellbeing, a company dedicated towards creating learning experiences for leading corporations, workplaces, teams, groups, and individuals. Because they believe that no one should sacrifice well being for performance. In today's interview, we are going to focus on something that really needs our focus. The reason I said that is self talk. How many of us do self talk on a regular basis? How many of us actually know that there is something called as a self talk? Even if we do know about it, how many of us know the power of it? How many of us know how many wonders it can do to our day-to-day lives, irrespective of who you are, irrespective of what you do in your daily life and your professional life? This is such a powerful tool, self talk, which literally translates to talking to your own self. We usually think communicating to somebody else is extremely important. We need to convey our message appropriately to somebody else, but it is extremely important that we do it to ourselves as well. We have a mind which thinks, we all know that, which is extremely basic, but again, it sometimes needs instructions from us. And where do you get that from? Having a wonderful and powerful self talk. So, today we have Kyra Cavanaugh who's going to share her insights with us about mastering positive self talk. Hello, Kyra. Welcome to Tal
Hello.
Radio.
Thank you so much. Hello, Jayasree. It's so nice to be with you and with all of our listeners today.
Wonderful. I really can't wait to talk about mastering positive self talk with you. I really enjoyed all our previous conversations, and I truly believe this is going to be remarkable.
Thank you. I do too. I always love talking with you, and I'm very excited about the feedback we've been getting so far about our conversations.
Absolutely. Yes. So, without any delay, let's talk about what is positive self talk, and why is mastering it essential for effective leadership in both personal and professional lives?
Great question. So let's start out by just defining what do we mean by self-talk and how do we make it positive. So if you were to sit quietly for a few moments and just focus on your breathing and become aware of your thoughts, what would you find? Would you find that your brain and your thoughts are very busy, very active? You're thinking about lots of things all the time. Or is your brain a little bit more quiet? And this might change from day to day, hour to hour. When we think about our thoughts as being energy, like clouds that float in and out of our view in the sky, then we can start to observe our thoughts. And we can begin to recognize that our thoughts are simply that. It's energy, it's clouds in the sky that are just moving in and out. Because we interpret our world through our brain, we can also interpret it through our heart and our body. But so many of us today use our brains to perceive our reality. And oftentimes there's a little trick that happens that is that the way our brain works, and all of our brains are different, creates this reality for us. And we can believe in our thoughts being reality. So when we start to break it down like that, then we can start to see, there's another way to analyze our thoughts and to think about and notice how often our thoughts are positive and how often they're negative. When something happens to you, do you immediately go to the negative, or do you pause? Maybe you stay in the neutral, or maybe your natural reaction is to give people the benefit of the doubt, or to see there's always a lesson to be learned there. So what we mean by self-talk then is, as we are observing all this stuff that's happening in the brain, what are we saying to ourselves about it? What conclusions are we drawing as a result of all of this thought activity that's going on? And we can train ourselves to talk to ourselves. If you don't really do this very much, it's a beautiful tool, like you said, Jayasree, that we can use. So we're going to talk today about how do we use this as a tool, and a tool for positivity. Neuroscientists have proven to us through all kinds of research that we can train the brain to be positive, and one of the ways we do that is through self-talk. So we're going to explore how we do that, why it's beneficial. And then you asked me the question about leadership. Leadership comes from inside of ourselves. If I'm going to lead you, it means that I will lead you best when I have a clear understanding of myself, when I see possibility, not just limitation, when I can be open-minded about the opportunities in front of us as a team, when I can see from a positive perspective all that you can bring to the conversation, to the family, to the work that we're doing together. And so that's what we mean when we say that positive self-talk can influence our leadership ability. It's that when we see the positive and when we have a very strong relationship with ourselves and we are aware of our thoughts as being simply thoughts, it fundamentally shifts how we show up in the leadership roles that we play in our lives.
Beautifully explained. I truly understand now the actual purpose of the positive self-talk, because when I initially told communicating with our own self is extremely important, but what you communicate is all the more important. So I get the essence. Having understood that, how can cultivating a habit of positive self-talk empower leaders to inspire and motivate their teams more effectively?
Well, we can only inspire and motivate when we're feeling inspired and motivated. So it's that old adage that we can't pour from an empty cup. So positive self-talk is a way of training our brains to see potential, to be inspired, to relax our thoughts enough that we can tune into the emotion we're having about the experience or the team or the people that we're leading, and to feel, sense in through our body, through our five senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting, to be able to be open to the intelligence, to the information that's coming into our bodies, so that again we can lead with our whole selves. So we could talk, if you'd like, Jayasree, about how to create a practice around positive self-talk, if you think that would be helpful.
Definitely, please do.
Okay.
I would never say no to any wisdom coming from you.
Well, that's very kind of you. So let's go back to just learning to observe our thoughts. So that's the place that I would start first when we think about building a habit of positive self-talk. So how do we do that? Create, and we've talked about this, I've encouraged you to do this before, create a practice where every morning or every evening or multiple times throughout the day that you stop and you pause. See, we can train the brain to understand its rightful place in the overall experience we have of being human. So the way we train the brain is to create boredom for the brain, to create quiet and space for the brain to go to town, to do what it's going to do. So maybe we could just try for a moment, just come into relaxed shoulders and begin to notice your breath. We'll do this together now. So just breathe in through the nose and exhale out through your mouth. And just notice your breath. If you'd like, you could close your eyes, or you could just look off out a window or just at the space around you. And then I encourage you, if your eyes are open, to just soften your gaze. And now just observe your brain. Observe the thoughts that are coming up for you. Thoughts might be, oh my gosh, this is strange, or this is stupid, or I don't have time for this. So notice what your brain is thinking. And now notice whether those thoughts are positive and which ones are negative. With no judgment, we're just being curious like scientists. Just observing. So we can use the skill, build the skill of positive self-talk by simply noticing every time there's a negative thought. So I'll pick one. This is stupid. Or I don't see the purpose of this. So we switch it into the positive. While this feels uncomfortable, I wonder what gift might be here for me. I'm noticing I'm resistant to something new. I want to be open to new experiences. I'm not sure why we're doing this. I'd like to trust Kyra and Jayasree and this time, this opportunity they're giving me to learn something new. So perhaps you can see that when we take, observe, notice, aren't threatened by, invite in the negative assumptions and conclusions our brain is drawing, we pause, we notice, then we can breathe into the flip side, to the reverse way of thinking, and create an openness, an opportunity for ourselves to switch it to the positive. I don't know why we're doing this. That's negative. I wonder why we're doing this. That's positive. And neuroscientists have proven to us that as we make the switch, our brains change. The chemistry of the brain changes. The connections, the conclusions that our brain makes become more positive. And we know our brains are so powerful that when we start to convert it to the positive, the world of possibility opens to us. Rather than shrinking into a defensive stance, we open ourselves up to many, many possibilities. We open ourselves up to new experiences, new people, to things that we don't understand. Can you see how that can widen and broaden the potential for us as leaders? The opportunities are endless.
Beautifully expressed. And I really love the exercise that you have just made me do. Whatever you were saying, I was literally able to understand, pause and observe and understand what my mind is juggling between. There are too many things that are going around, and it's kind of messed up, I can say very honestly. And then I kind of realized, okay, this is a little difficult for me to sort all at once. So I need to take my time, sit down, calm down, and then sort them. But it was really, really interesting and very effective. With one single try, I'm able to find a bit of relief, that a kind of knot is clear in my head now. So I really appreciate you doing this and the time you have taken to do this. Thank you so much for sharing this with all of our listeners, Kyra.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. And moving on, I'd like to ask you about why is it important for leaders to model positive self-talk behaviors to create a culture of resilience and optimism within their organizations?
So where does resilience come from? It's the ability to bounce back from difficult situations, from stress, prolonged or multiple stressful events. So do we want to meet those stressful events with negativity? Or do we want to meet those stressful events with positivity and openness? When we think about the leaders that we know, that we follow, are we inspired by positive leaders who see potential, who are optimistic and open to what everybody can contribute? Or are we more inspired by those negative ones, the people who always are quick to presume something can't be done, or to presume that you're not the right person to do it, or to presume that we're doomed and nothing can change and nothing is possible. No, we want to be inspired by the leaders who see possibility. And those leaders, some of them might be naturally born to just be joyful and optimistic. That's beautiful if you've been given that gift. But if you don't naturally have a positive bias, if you don't just naturally know how to see the positive, the opportunity, then we can train ourselves. That's what the neuroscientists have shown us. We can train ourselves. Positivity and positive self-talk is a skill. It's a skill that we can learn and develop no matter where we live, no matter who we've been raised by, no matter the experiences that have come forth in our lives that have challenged that optimism, that hope, that positivity. So it's a skill we use, converting negative to the positive, to be able to lead people who may not see what you see. Aren't leaders people that can see possibilities when the rest of us may not see them? Aren't positive, inspiring leaders the ones who pick us up and carry us along with them when we're tired or when we feel hopeless or when the stress has just gotten to be so much that we don't know if we can keep going? So those leaders are leaders because they recognize the discipline, the skill, the work, the investment to be made in daily practice to renew and recharge your battery, to recognize when you need a break, to recognize when the thoughts in the brain are starting to become increasingly negative. Those leaders, it's not that they don't feel that negativity. It's not that they don't have bad days. It's that they recognize and acknowledge when that negativity is getting to be too much. And just like you were suggesting, stop. Don't keep pressing forward. Don't keep moving on. But stop and renew and re-engage the brain. Let the brain do its thing. And then remember and remind that there's an opportunity for positivity always.
Thank you for sharing that, Kyra. It was really, really important for all of us to know. Having said that, there's something that I want to ask you about uncertainty also. So, how does mastering positive self talk enable leaders to navigate through these adversity and uncertainty with confidence and clarity?
Yeah, well, how do we have clarity if the brain is going a mile a minute?
Yes.
If there are so many thoughts, like you were saying, right? This is real life. This is real. We've all got lots and lots of things that we're trying to manage. And the more things that the brain is thinking are important or required or necessary, the more we lack clarity. So it's really important as a leader, we're all leaders, to recognize when the brain is like a runaway train. Sometimes brains are compared to being monkeys, right? The busy, opening up things and unearthing things and poking at each other and creating chaos. Brains are very, very powerful. So it's two-sided, right? When we recognize we're not feeling clear-headed, that's a signal that it's time to put our brain, put our bodies in a different setting. Step outside of the day-to-day. Give yourself a moment. See, we think that to create this constant stream of positive thought, to create a quiet brain, to be able to slow down and prioritize, to be able to create space between thought and reality, we can have a misconception that this happens by taking a vacation or by getting a massage or by going off to the mountaintop to sit there for a month or two or to give ourselves up completely to service in an ashram or a holy space or a temple, our brains can convince us that it's actually not possible to do this in the course of our normal life. And when our brains trick us into thinking that it's only possible in these sort of outside of our daily experiences, then our brains keep us locked in to the way that we're currently living and thinking. When we recognize that the opportunity to retrain the brain through positive self-talk is in this instant right now. It's when you're waiting for the water to boil for your tea. It's when you're using the restroom. Before you open up the door and walk out, take a moment to breathe. It's when we're in connection with other people. Perhaps you're playing with a child or you're sharing a moment with a friend. Those are the moments to recognize the monkey brain, to recognize the runaway train, and to breathe into awareness and observation. It's as we're going through the daily course of our life to recognize how negative our brain is being and to take a big deep breath, inhale, and rewrite the sentence. Say, I hear you, brain. I understand you're feeling hopeless today. Wow, brain, you are super busy. I like to talk to my brain as though it's a separate entity from me, because it helps me get some distance. And when I can get some space from the thoughts in the brain, I can feel free to rewrite the negativity, to rewrite the frenetic, non-stop script that's going on there, and say, I can have freedom. I hear you and I see you, brain, and here's the choice I'm going to make. I'm going to see the very difficult time I'm going through as an opportunity to learn something new. I'm going to see this difficulty of this constant wheel of stress that I'm on as an opportunity to ask myself, is this how I want to live? When we take a breath in the course of our daily life, that's where the opportunity for positive self-talk exists.
Wonderfully explained. Absolutely beautiful. The moments that you have described are those that are extremely important. Tiny examples that you gave, playing with a child and sharing a moment with your friend, that hit me hard because in this world, in today's world, I should say, even when you're playing with a child, it's inevitable that you have a mobile on the other hand. And even if you are sharing a moment with your friend, it's more important to post it on social media at that very instant, even before, sharing that sweet moment with your friend. So it is that scary, the world has become that scary. And in such scenarios and such chaotic situations, the techniques that you have just mentioned and the situation that you have asked the listeners to get into is extremely valuable. I truly appreciate the way you have taken us through this beautiful understanding. And having said that, I would also want to ask you about something that we have discussed previously as well. We have spoken about self-awareness, in a couple of interviews prior to this. But again, I would love to ask you that why is self-awareness a critical component in developing and refining positive self-talk skills for leadership success in the long term?
We have to be aware. It's exactly as you just said, Jayasree. If I am not aware that I'm half paying attention, if I'm not aware that my bias is toward memorializing this moment rather than being fully present in it, if I'm not aware of how defensive my brain is, how its first motive is to protect because of all of the things that I've been through, if I don't have that awareness, then my brain is always going to run the show. And brains aren't built for peace. Our hearts seek peace. Our brains aren't built necessarily to slow down and to feel into the moment that I'm having. That's not the brain's job, that's the body's job. So by building awareness, we can put our brains into the rightful role and balance that they should have. Our brains are only one way of perceiving the world. And so self-awareness gives us the opportunity to understand the outsized role our brain may be playing in our lives and to learn to rebalance that power shift, that power structure of body, heart, and mind to be able to train the brain to give space to our emotions, to give space to our body's intelligence and our body's awareness. So that self-awareness is critical, and it can also be very scary. We can be very scared of what we'll find there. There are many, many reasons why we avoid that awareness, and I respect those, and I hope you'll respect them in yourself. We only want to go as far as awareness feels comfortable and safe, and we want to make sure that we're reaching out and getting resources and support when it doesn't, but we want to do the work anyway.
Totally appreciate that, the way you have taken us through on this question as well. Being aware is of utmost importance, and if you're not aware, everything goes for a toss. You just live mechanical lives, and even in a mechanical machine, there is an error that can be detected, but when humans become mechanical, it gets all the more difficult. So I truly appreciate the way you have explained this to all of us. Kyra, thank you so much. It was absolutely wonderful talking to you today, as usual. And thank you so much for your valuable time and energy today as well.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's a simple skill that we can be doing to be paying attention to just rewriting the negative scripts in the brain to the positive. And just remember, your brain is only part of your human experience. And when we open ourselves up to possibility and to hope from negativity and hopelessness, the world opens up to all of us. So I so appreciate your time and your insightful questions today. And I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you.
Definitely. It's likewise. I really can't wait to talk to you about many more topics that are extremely enlightening and very, very important in both personal and professional lives. So these traits and qualities that we are talking about in our series, they're not just, we are using the term leadership because everybody is a leader of their own life, correct? So all of these topics that we're talking about can be incorporated in any phase of life and in any manner that suits their personal situations. So absolutely wonderful. And thank you so very much once again for your time today.
Thank you so much.
All right. So that was Kyra Cavanaugh for all of you today, and you're listening to TALRadio, powered by Touch a Life Foundation. This is your host, Jayasree, signing off for today. Stay tuned and keep learning.